Hi everybody! Welcome back to my channel. So I'm beginning my first garden project, really, of the summer, which is a dried flower project. I've been focused on fresh cut flowers. Last summer I did a big zinnia cutting garden using the floret varieties, which I don't think that she sold the seeds this past fall, so I'm really glad that I did that last year. Saved the seeds for that. You will have seen that in the winter. But this year I have decided to try to grow some dried flower varieties, and I have to shout out Bex Partridge, who has a Create Academy course on dried flowers that I am working my way through. I've always really loved dried flowers. Even when I was like living in the city and working corporate, I would go to this like rural part of the state to get pumpkins for Halloween, for the fall. And I would go to this farm, and the whole ceiling in the interior was just hanging bundles of dried flowers. And I would always buy the bundles and like hang them around my apartment and then my house in the city. I had some dried flowers in my office during that time too, because I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a houseplant person. This is a tangent, but I am here to tell you that you do not have to be good with houseplants to be somebody who loves gardening. Like, I need a co-parent. Mother Nature, you know? she's doing a better job than I am. Anyways, but dried flowers are so interesting to me because they're beautiful for so long in this sort of preserved state. I'm a Gemini. I guess I should come out to everyone now. I'm a Gemini, and it's going to be very evident because I like projects. I like experimenting. I like trying new things. And I feel like I start going down a road and then I'm like, but what about this? And gardening is the most amazing hobby for that, because there's so many avenues that I've gone down, like, you know, culinary mushrooms was my first one. And then willow, I wanted to have a willow farm. Then it's like a fruit farm with our fruit trees. So I started getting really into fruit trees. Then it's like a flower farm. Now I'm dried flowers. And you know, one of these days, no. Actually, no. I'm never gonna like pick a thing. I ordered these from New Hill Farms. And the instructions say to soak the seeds prior to sowing them. And we are past our frost date, our last frost date. So I'm going to be starting the different varieties that I'm growing in my raised beds in here, in my Airstream greenhouse. This is what these little seeds look like. I'm going to be starting them in trays in here, just because it stays a little bit warmer and a bit more protected. But I'm putting them in some warm water for at least 24 hours. I do this also with morning glories and like money plant lunaria, which is another dried flower that I want to grow, but we'll be starting it in the fall because it kind of needs to overwinter. Generally, I think that like the globe thistles and sea hollies, which I've grown before, you'll be seeing those. I've done seed experiments with those, and what I love about them is that they're a great cut flower, and they're also a really great dried flower. And they also seed themselves. I'm super into them, and they're blue. They're like my favorite purpley blue. So, but this will be my first time starting seeds in the spring for those. So after these have soaked, I will see you back here to start putting things into trays. 24 hours later, and we are back to plant these babies. Also to show you what else I'm going to be doing. So again, these are all from New Hill Farm, but I have seashells, straw flower, purple, red straw flower, and then blue globe thistle and blue glitter thistle. This to me looks like sea holly, so I don't know what the difference is. But the straw flowers and the thistles and now the amaranth, now that they've soaked, are all going into some seed trays. The way that I like to water my seeds is from the bottom. You've probably heard of this, but if you haven't done it, you should. It makes it way easier to put water in here and let them soak up from the bottom. And then I have miscellaneous covers, plastic covers, that just add a little bit of protection, some more humidity for the seeds. And they are in front of a window, pretty big bright window, but I'm also not gonna leave them in here. That's probably the biggest mistake that I've made starting seeds, like using a light inside and not transplanting them quickly enough, letting them get leggy, which I'm not doing here. In fact, there's nothing wrong with just direct seeding in the ground, but I do find that this is a bit more successful. The other thing that I do is I use metal. This is like aluminum. I think Brett gave this to me as like scrap piece of aluminum, but I basically made little plant tags and I just use them forever. I think they're so much sturdier than like wooden ones. And basically I just use a little bit of alcohol. This was from broccoli. I don't know what I was thinking starting that. That's crazy. I want to get more into vegetable gardening, but I'm going to be totally honest with you. That is not my area of expertise. I'm just going to use a little bit of alcohol to clean it up. And it's nice and clean. And then I use a Sharpie to write what I am seeding. They say to be 1/8 of an inch, which is really just barely in there and covered. And I tend to put a few seeds per cube. So these seeds are just sort of sprinkled in there with a little bit of cocoa coir on top. You could use peat or vermiculite. And then I'm just putting a little bit of water in the bottom. And these little tops have like holes that can be opened or closed. I'm gonna keep them closed for now. I'm in this sort of field that has some lavender plants in it. And I'm trying to turn this area into an actual sort of cut flower meadow. As you can see, there's a lot of artemisia that's coming up in here. And I need to take my lavender plants out so that I can start moving some of the soil around. I need to flatten this area to a certain grade. You are sitting on top of a pile of rocks, which I will show you. It's a very rocky area. I've taken a lot of rocks out of here, and I'm not totally sure what the plan is. I just need to start somewhere. But it's basically May now, and this is when I really start working with plants, moving things around. So this lavender, it's getting swallowed up. Anyways, so I'm gonna dig them out and put them in pots so that I can start moving some of the soil around. So these are my thistles, my globe thistles, and the amaranth. And these really need to go into raised beds today. The straw flowers are still pretty small. These are all straw flowers. And then the glitter thistles have like not really started yet. There's some tiny little ones coming up, but I kind of wonder if those are straw flowers. They kind of look like it. So the weather recently has been super rainy and wet. I mean, as is typical for like April, beginning of May. So I couldn't resist direct seeding in these beds. I actually did seed zinnias in the middle between these brackets. And so I'm filling in the ends of the beds with dried flowers. That's my plan for right now. There's an evolution, as there always is. So I actually had leftover seeds for some of the straw flowers and poppies, which I put in the center 3 ends of the beds. And then I'm putting thistles here. You don't have to remember any of this at all. You'll see it when it starts to come up. But some of the zinnia seeds are coming up in here. And these thistles have done pretty well. So I'm gonna sort of space them out here while it's still really nice and wet. So the plan is to plug that meadow area with some self-seeding perennial, biennial plants. These plants are really too much in the shade as well. Like when they're trying to bloom, they reach way over. So I think they'll be happier over there in like a generally sunnier area. I can get these apart. Okay. That's 2 of these thistles are so prickly. I did end up getting 6 of these globe thistles, and I started these from seeds that I collected. I show the process in my when seeds start to sprout video, which by the way was like almost a year ago, and I'm just kind of reminiscing about that. Okay. This sea holly is starting to like send up a shoot already. So I can't believe it's doing that because it's so shady over here. I think it's going to be so much happier. But look at all of these that have seeded themselves. Like, and then this is a little baby foxglove. That's the big foxglove plant that I'm going to be taking out. And then there's another foxglove that way. So I love plants that seed themselves. My willow are looking so nice. And I'm really trying to enjoy the tulips while they're still in bloom. This is the first time I've ever had tulips in these beds, but I've always imagined them being kind of like spring beds. So I'm enjoying the tulips while they last. They're kind of like on their way out, as you can see. And I'm going to be seeding columbine in this area and more foxgloves because those are both good with partial sun. And this is definitely not a very sunny zone. Unfortunately, the lilies that I have in here are covered in these beetles, and I love bugs, but I freaking, look, there they are, fornicating. This is the current state of the meadow area behind me. Took out the lavender, cleared the rocks. It's not really that level. It's definitely lower here than it is over there. I'm not sure if you can tell. And my plan for this is just to kind of let it go wild. There's some milkweed that comes up in this area and lots of artemisia, which is fine with me. It can kind of fill in, and using the globe thistles and the sea hollies and the foxgloves, they will seed themselves. And I'm also going to grow some zinnias down here, which I have done before. I have had zinnias in this area and they've been happy. So the soil here is not great and it's just generally kind of rough, but it's more sunlight. Sometimes you just have to put plants in new environments because you might think that they're gonna like one thing, and sometimes you don't know what they like. I've been filming this video over the course of the last month, but I have not been filming that much because there's been a lot going on behind the scenes. Most excitingly, I got engaged on my 30th birthday, so I'm just happy about being engaged. And also things are starting to pick up with our house build, which I've alluded to in previous videos, that we've been in a contract to build our dream house here. Permits are being submitted, like things are starting to get moving, and that's been a lot of work again behind the scenes. And also the gardens are not in their highlight reel phase right now. I feel like June is when things really kick off, and May is all about laying the groundwork, and I'm really excited about the different garden spaces this summer. I'm always excited to see just kind of what happens. So I am going to walk you around outside and show you how things are looking. So I guess to begin, my raised beds are all filled with seedlings. Well, I wouldn't say filled with seedlings. This bed in particular looks really great. Has had a lot of germination for some reason, and some of these beds really nothing germinated in terms of like zinnias or the straw flowers. And also I ended up getting a bunch of dahlia tubers. Don't know if you can see. This little guy was a gift at my previous job. A client gave me this dahlia, and I really didn't think it was going to come back. I had it in vermiculite, but we don't have a basement, and so I can't believe that it looks so good. And then I have some other tubers in here. This one's kind of going. Unfortunately, I think I have rabbits. Well, I know I do. I've seen them around. We're going to talk about some critter activity because that's always a factor here. There's a lot of wildlife. But overall, I'm not panicking. I think things look pretty good, and you can always move around little seedlings if places are sparse. Like this whole bed, I don't know why nothing is growing in it, really. So that's the update around here. Let's keep walking. This is the lower garden area. The foxglove is just starting. The willow look really nice. And the irises are in bloom. They started blooming like a week ago. But this area looks really beautiful. Speaking of irises, there are some over here by the wetlands that are so pretty. This is one of my favorite just kind of viewpoints. So beautiful. So you can see how sort of marshy, and you can hear all the wildlife, which segues into the snapping turtles. We always have snapping turtles, obviously lots of frogs, but the snapping turtles come and they're like dinosaurs. It's so exciting to see them. And they decide where they want to lay their eggs or where they just want to dig. And they really like my meadow area. So I actually haven't gone over in a couple days to see how things are looking because I just saw that there were big holes where I had put seeds. But let's go take a look. This is a big hole that a turtle's butt was in. And also over here, which is where I had started some sunflower seeds. I had just direct seeded some sunflower seeds along this edge. But overall, it's looking really nice in here. This foxglove transplant did so well, it's about to bloom. And let's see if there's anybody else. Nobody else is really thriving. But you know, here's a little thistle. Looks pretty happy. That's another foxglove. The foxgloves love it. I'm not being too fussy with this area, and it is starting to fill in. I do have some zinnias back here though. Let's check on them. So this snapping turtle hole is right where I'm sure I had planted some zinnias, because this is a patch of zinnias seeds in here as well. So I had sort of put them along this line, and then somebody sat in it, but you know, the turtles, they're higher up on the ranking around here than me, so whatever. What else can I show you? This area is looking very pretty. As I said, irises are in full bloom, their full glory, and they're so magical. And I have a peony. I'm staying far away so you can't see that this peony, I didn't stake that up or give it any support. To be fair, it's been a very small plant up until this year, but that's sad to see. So I need to get on that. That's kind of the gist around here. The strawberry patch behind me is just about to pop. They're starting. It looks so clean. Full confession, Brett did all of this. I didn't do anything to this strawberry patch. I mean, I helped a little bit, but not really. So crazy, because this is where I filmed my first like real video about a year ago. When the seeds start to sprout. This transitionary period that we're in right now is really what I was anticipating when I started making those videos and wanting to document. And now I'm really in this phase, so that's exciting, and it's been a really great year. Thank you all for tagging along. I'm gonna keep making videos, as far as I know. So, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.